Howdy folks, this is Rob with MTG Investor, and I'm here to bring you some early thoughts on Magic Origins. Origins is set to come out July 17th. 134 of the 272 cards have been spoiled at this point. And I, like many people, was initially very excited about this set. I was really looking forward to it. But as of right now, I am not very impressed with this set. I don't see a lot of cards that really excite me. There are some cards that are getting looks, and there are some cards that are getting some high price on the pre-sale, but I think a lot of that is just that, the big card shops need to make their money on busting boxes, so some things are overinflated. So today I'm going to kind of skim through the colors and the cards, the key cards that are popping out at me, and take a look at them. I'm not going to make any predictions on standard prices. That's not my bag, baby. Because I'm not a deck builder. At least I'm not the deck builder I once was. But standard isn't something that I think and mull over. Got too many things going on in my life to do that. I usually just pick something I like to play and play it. But anyway, I am going to make some comments on things that I think may have some modern playability and legacy playability or vintage playability. And just in general cards that I'm watching. I'll definitely be putting out, more videos on cards that I see have bigger potential as I see how they play out in the format, but I like to see how cards are going to react when they're actually being played. So without further ado, let's get going. I'm going to skim through the cards color by color, and I'm going to pick out the cards that are priced, say, $5 and higher. And I'm also going to pick out some cards that may be under $5 that I'm going to kind of keep an eye on. First one that jumps out in white is Archangel of Tides, which was just spoiled actually in the last 24 hours. 3/5 flyer for 3 white and 1. And basically, when she's untapped, your opponent has to pay 1 for every creature that attacks you, and when she's attacking, they have to pay 1 for every blocker. I can see this getting played in Standard. Of course, things are going to change radically when Zendikar comes out. We don't know. So all the archetypes, we have some natural archetypes. We typically have a mono-red deck in the environment somewhere. Sometimes we have a red-green aggro deck. Usually there's a control deck or two. Right now we have a reanimator deck, and there's all these archetypes that are already kind of built in. We might see one where Archangel of Tides, in certain formats, Archangel of Tides would be a fabulous creature to have in a deck. So right now it's priced at $20. I don't know if it's going to hold on to that. I don't think it will, but if it sees play, it'll probably stick around $20. I'm not really interested in that card as far as an investment or anything. Next we have Kithian, Hero of Akros, which is the Gideon Flip Planeswalker, and this card is a pretty good card, I think. Well, he'll definitely see play early on, or at least people will attempt to play him. He looks great in like a white weenie shell, or a white-green weenie shell, or maybe a white-red shell, so that you can fire off some direct damage and protect him. He does have Indestructible, but you don't really want to be paying 3 mana for that when he's swinging with 2 other creatures. So I can see people will definitely try to play this guy. He might have some play in Modern, maybe. He could see some play in a Zoo variant in Modern, because he is a 2/1 for 1, and I could see a Naya Zoo shell for that guy. And being able to basically for 1 mana get a Planeswalker, that's pretty good. He's somebody I'm keeping an eye on for Modern. At $25, I'm not ready to jump on that train yet. I'll just wait and see how that plays out. Next is Relic Seeker, 2/2 for a white and 1. This apparently is the fixed version of Stoneforge Mystic, and it's not very fixed to me. Basically, he does the same thing as Stoneforge Mystic. When Relic Seeker becomes renowned, you may search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. So basically it's Relic Seeker, except for it doesn't have the put into play ability, and you have to deal combat damage with him first. I mean, he might get played in Standard, but I don't foresee him getting played in Modern or Legacy or anything. Alright, probably my favorite card in the whole set that I've seen so far is Starfield of Nyx. And the reason why I love it so much is because I was a big player back in the day when Replenish and Opalescence was a deck. So basically, you get all this stuff in your graveyard, including Opalescence, and then you replenish, and everything from your yard comes back, and Opalescence turns all your enchantments into 4/4, 5/5 beats, and then you swing for the win next turn. And so Starfield Nyx basically does both of those for 5 mana. White and 4, enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return an enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then as long as you control 5 or more enchantments, each other non or enchantment you control becomes a creature with power and toughness equal to its casting cost. So I would love to build a deck around this. I'm going to let the deck builders do it for me because I just don't have the time to do it. Anyway, I'm really excited about this card. It's pre-selling at $10. I'm not going to be buying any at $10, but I'm excited to see if this sees play. So the fan in me really wants to see Starfield Nyx do well. I don't know that it will. I'm thinking probably it won't, but I want to see somebody try. Anyway, one of the things that's interesting about this set, and of course, I mean, it makes sense being called Origins, is that there's a lot of cards in here that basically do what older cards did. And some of them, like the ones we talked about, Relic Seeker, seems like it's trying to fix what Stoneforge Mystic, or be what Stoneforge Mystic should have been, or maybe this is the fixed version of cards. So there's quite a few cards in here like that, like Starfield of Nyx. Like the Replenish deck was sick good, and it's really fuzzy because it's been what? Oh my gosh, it's probably been 14-15 years since that deck was played. But that deck came out of nowhere and just crushed people until people finally figured out how to beat it. And even then, it was a very dominant deck for quite a while. And so you're seeing a lot of cards in here that pay homage to older cards, which I think is cool. The fan in me, even though financially this set looks like a pile of crap to me, the fan in me likes the idea of this set. And one interesting thing is, I was kind of contemplating this set and why maybe it was bad. And I think maybe the possibility is that this was planned to be just a regular base core set. And then when they made the changes to standard, they decided that they were going to, since they already had plans for this, they were already kind of paying people, in a sense they had a team already for what would be M16. They, just flipped and said, okay, now we're going to do this Magic Origins set instead of M16, and you guys are going to have to come up with these origin ideas. So maybe not enough thought went into this set as other sets because they had less time to mess around with it and come up with ideas for it. That's what I'm guessing, maybe. Or, I don't know, maybe I'm totally off target on that, but that's kind of what I speculated about this set. Alright, so let's move on to blue. And the first card on the list is Days Undoing. This card is getting a lot of attention online, and it should, because it's the new Time Twister. The only difference is that your turn ends at Days Undoing resolves. Now, at first when I read that, I was like, that sucks. Your turn ending immediately. You're not going to be able to combo out with this card. And then I started thinking back to the days when I did play Vintage, and I used to have a full power 9, and when I played Vintage, I played a recurring artifact deck where I just created basically like endless loops of infinite mana with artifacts and Hurkyl's recalling them back to my hand, and Time Twistering and Forgotten Luring the Time Twister back on top of my deck, and just keep going over and over and over and over like that. So anyway, I was thinking one thing that I would do in that deck is, I would Time Walk, and so we had Time Walk. We keep putting Time Walk back in our deck and Time Walking over and over. One thing that you can do with Days Undoing is that you can cast Time Walk first and then Days Undoing. So basically you're adding a second Time Twister to your deck. As long as you Time Walk first, then you cast Days Undoing, then your turn ends, boom, your next turn starts. So you're skipping your opponent's turn. Right now I don't see Days Undoing fitting into a standard deck. There might be a place where Days Undoing could fit into a modern deck. There's a guy I played that was playing the Time Walk deck, and he had all the different Time Walks in there, and he would just Time Walk over and over and over and over and just keep going and going and going. And I forgot his win condition. But anyway, maybe this card right here could fit into that deck. Could see that being a possibility. But Days Undoing, in my opinion, was printed for Vintage people. Every now and then when Wizards of the Coast create cards, they try to throw bones to Vintage players. And Vintage, even though it's not a heavily played format, there are still pockets of places in the U.S. where Vintage is heavily played. Watch the Vice documentary on Magic the Gathering, and you can see those guys up there in New Jersey that are long-time Vintage players. So anyway, in my opinion, Days Undoing was made specifically for Vintage players. There may be a place in Modern, but I don't think so. And I don't think it's going to get played in Legacy either. In Vintage, I can see it getting played. And I have a hot opinion on this card. I think Days Undoing is going to be restricted in Vintage right off the bat. Like, very quickly, I think it's going to get restricted. Because having a 1 Time Twister and 4 Days Undoing in a Vintage deck that's doing recursion tricks like the deck I used to play, that's kind of obscene. Even when you have to have a Time Walk before, I think this is going to get restricted in Vintage. Now, if it gets played and it becomes a one-of staple in a Vintage deck, I like this card a lot. At $25, I like it a lot. So I want to see first, I want to kind of keep my eye on the Vintage format and see if Days Undoing finds a place in there. Just like Dak Faden found a place in Vintage and that card shot through the roof. I picked up Dak Faden's back about 9 months ago because I started seeing them played. They're great at stealing Moxes and Black Lotus and all kinds of zero artifacts in Vintage. So I think Days Undoing is a card that you really should keep a close eye on. I'm going to keep a close eye on. And if I see it played in Vintage, then I will scoop them up, and I will gladly scoop them up at $25 because it's not getting reprinted. I don't think it's ever going to get reprinted, at least in the relative near future, like 10 years, 15 years or something like that maybe. It could get reprinted in some kind of miscellaneous kind of deck, like maybe even a Commander deck it could get reprinted, but I don't see it getting reprinted in Modern Masters because I don't think it's going to be a staple in Modern. If Days Undoing gets played in Vintage, then you better scoop up some foil ones because the Vintage player loves to pimp their deck. And if you think a EDH player, Commander player loves to pimp their deck, ooh, you should watch the Vintage guys. Those guys love, I mean, they're already spending thousands and thousands of dollars on their deck. They want the foils. Keep an eye on that. Days Undoing. All right, let's move on. I've talked too much about that guy. Next is Jace. All right, so here's the new Jace. He's a 0-2 for a blue and 1. Tap, draw a card, then discard a card. If there are 5 or more cards in your graveyard, exile Jace and return him transformed. And he is basically 5 loyalty. +1 is up to 1 target creature gets -2 until end of turn. -3, you may cast target instant sorcery card from your graveyard this turn, and then exile it. His super is -9, you get an emblem. Whenever you cast a spell, target opponent puts the top 5 cards of his or her library in the graveyard. So first you have to ask yourself, is the Planeswalker version of Jace any good? The +1 ability is, it's okay, I guess. The -3 ability, it's okay. Like, I really think this is a very poor Planeswalker, so the question would be, do I want him as a creature? Draw and discard a card. Yeah, that's not like a great ability. It tells you if there are 5 or more cards, you exile and return him, so it's not an option. It's not an optional thing, so you can't just use him as a creature per se. He's being priced at $20. That price is going to come down, I think, but again, I don't want to speculate too much on Standard. I can't see Jace being a super played card, or even I can't even see him being played at all, unless there's some Wizards deck or something out there. I mean, is Blue really going to play 0-2 weenie creatures in their deck? One card that I like that's in Blue that's not getting any love, but I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on it, is Mizium Meddler, blue and 2. He's a 1/4 with flash, and when he enters the battlefield, you can change target spell or ability to Mizium Meddler. So basically, if you get bolted, bam, in response, Meddler, redirect it to him, he lives through. I can see this guy getting some play in decks that splash blue. It's $2 right now, pre-sale, and I'm just going to kind of keep an eyeball on it. I don't think it's outstanding, amazing, but it's one of those cards that I think it has some function. We'll see. All right, let's see what else. Let's move on to black. Dark Petition. 2 black and 3 sorcery. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instant sorcery cards in your graveyard, add 3 black to your mana pool. I can see this card getting played in combo decks because combo decks are typically black and red. For 5 mana, like, generating black mana is really easy in combo decks because of all the rituals and whatnot. Costs 5 mana, but you're going to have spell mastery in combo decks. So basically, he's costing 5 and then you're going to get 3 back. So essentially, it's a net loss of 2 mana. It's a net loss of 2 colorless mana, and you get to tutor. So basically, think of it like this. Tutor for any card in your deck for 2 black mana. You're going to get that Dark Ritual in return. So I'm going to keep my eye on this card. This card's $4 right now. And combo pieces aren't typically cards that are like super valuable cards, like even Ad Nauseam, which probably close to tier 1 deck, if not tier 1 deck. Ad Nauseam in Modern, that Ad Nauseam's only like a $3-4 card. So this probably may be priced at $4, about where it should be. But that's one I'm also going to keep an eye on. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to find a home in combo decks or not, but I'm kind of watching it. Next card, Languish. This card's getting lots of love. The first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this looks really good. -4 for 2 black and 2 sorcery. It's a rare. I think that's a pretty good card right there. I mean, it kills so many good cards in the format right now. It kills Death Mist Raptor and Den Protector and Rabble Master and all its tokens. Kills Stormbreath Dragon, kills Thunderbreak Region, it kills Ujitai, man, you name it, it kills like so many cards. It kills Courser of Krufix, but it doesn't kill Tasker, and it doesn't kill Silumgar, which is also a black creature, and it doesn't kill Rhino, and there's a lot of good cards that it doesn't kill, so that's something to keep in mind too. So anyway, I like that card. Right now it's pre-selling at $7.50. I think that's probably a little overpriced. Usually Wrath Effect cards fall back down to about $5 range, $4 or $5 range. So I think it's a little overpriced right now. I don't see it being played in Modern, definitely not in Legacy. Alright, so let's move on to the new Liliana. Alright, so this new Liliana is pre-sale $25. Not sure if I like this card or not. First, let's look at the Planeswalker. She has 3 loyalty, +2. Each player discards a card. And then -X. Return target non-legendary creature card with converted mana cost 0 from the graveyard to the battlefield. -8, you get an emblem whenever a creature dies, return to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. So is it a decent Planeswalker? If you want to be discarding cards, sure, that's good. -X, return things from the graveyard. She's only got 3 loyalties, so if you go right into that, you're gonna take her down pretty quick. If you're playing like a 0 or 1 casting cost creatures and you're bringing back little things like Ornithopters or whatnot, then maybe there's a deck for that. As a creature, she's 2 black and 1, 2/3 with lifelink. And whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile her, return her transformed. If you do, because I guess she may be killed before that happens, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token on the battlefield. So you get a 2/2 to protect your Liliana Planeswalker when she leaves play. $25. I'm not sure this is a great card. I mean, the idea of flip creature / Planeswalker cards are cool. The idea of them are cool, but I'm not really sure how great that concept is in practical applications. So I'm a little skeptical of all these creatures. Now, I love them as a fan. I think they're really cool. But anyway, 2/3 lifelink for 3. That's reasonable with the chance to flip her, I guess. And I guess you just need the right kind of deck for that for Liliana. I'll watch it, but I don't see any great future for this card. You never know. A lot of people are talking about Collected Company and putting Liliana on all the Planeswalkers basically are 3 mana or less. So you see Collected Company being thrown around a lot. Alright, that's all for black, so let's move on to red. Alright, in red, first we have Avaricious Dragon, 2 red, 2, 4/4 flyer. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. At the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. I might see him being played in a mono red deck in standard. I could see him like maybe as a 2 of, or maybe a 1 of. And basically you're just he's at the very end of your curve, and bam, you drop him when you basically just ran through your hand and go. Next, Chandra. She's a 2/2 for 2 red and 1. This, to me, is the most playable of the Planeswalkers. I think she has the most potential to be played. Whenever you cast a red spell, untap Chandra. Tapper. Chandra deals 1 damage to target player. If Chandra has dealt 3 or more damage this turn, exile her, then return her to the battlefield transformed under your control. So basically, you pop her down turn 3 or turn 2 if you had some way to accelerate her out. And what you do is you tap her, you do 1 damage to the player, right? And then you cast your bolt or whatever kind of direct damage, kill whatever creature they have that's over there potentially blocking. She untaps, she swings and does 2 damage for the attack, and now you've done 3 damage. And then she flips, and then she flips and she goes 2 damage right to the player. So bam, you've done 5 damage to the player on that turn just from Chandra alone. And Chandra is 4 loyalty, and her +1 ability doing 2 damage to target player, that alone is worth playing Chandra. So her -2 is she deals 2 damage to target creature. That probably will get played sometimes, but basically I just want to 2 my opponent every freaking turn if I can. Of course, I will admit, I keep saying this over and over, I'm no great architect of Standard, and it's probably the one format where least skilled at making calls, but I love playing red, and I'll play mono red if I can. I'll play red green would be my next choice to play, and I definitely would try to cram Chandra in a deck somewhere. Just being able to 2 my opponent, turn 4 if I get 5 damage off Chandra, that's just good to me. So anyway, she is priced at $12 right now. And I think she was priced higher and her pre-sale value has come down. And at $12, I might think about picking some of those up at 12 because she is mythic. If she does get played, I don't know if mono red needs to be a deck for her to get played. I don't usually speculate on Standard very much or make plays on Standard. Every now and then I will. But at $12, Chandra might be a good play because she might move. If she does get played in Standard, she'll move to $20, $25, I think. So I'm going to think about that one. You'll have to make your own call on that. All right, next, Exquisite Firecraft. 2 red and 1 sorcery. It does 4 damage to target creature or player. Spell mastery. If there are 2 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, Exquisite Firecraft can't be countered by spells or abilities. It's a $4 pre-sale. I like this card as basically a 2 of in a red deck as a finisher. Being you're going to easily have spell mastery playing red. Any of the red cards with spell mastery seem like the best and easiest color to be playing. It's basically a 4 damage uncounterable for 3 mana. I like it as a finisher. Alright, Honored Hierarch. So I guess this is the fixed Noble Hierarch. He's a 1/1 for 1 green. He's a human druid. He's not an elf, unfortunately. It's a rare. And he has Renown 1. So his ability is, as long as he's renowned, he has Vigilance and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. He turns into a Bird of Paradise, but he can't turn into a Bird of Paradise that's usable until turn 3, because turn 1 you got to cast him, turn 2 you have to attack with him, turn 3 you can attack with a 2/2, and he's a Birds of Paradise at that point. Now, is there a green deck where this guy is playable as just a regular creature? Because basically on turn 2, after you've attacked, he's going to become a 2/2 for 1 green. There might be a deck that's he's used, but don't look at him as a Birds of Paradise. If you get the Birds of Paradise on him, that's a bonus. You just need to think of him, I think, as a 2/2. I don't know how many mana creatures are going to be in the environment after M15 rotates. I don't know if we're going to lose Elvish Visionary, if this is going to be our only option, or we're going to get some more mana creatures. Alright, of all the Planeswalker creature combinations, Nissa is the weakest one in my opinion. I'm just looking at her Planeswalker. Essentially you want to get these to Planeswalkers, unless the creature's just really OP. And Gideon's the only one that's a really good creature. Nissa Planeswalker is 3 loyalty. +1 is reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it into the battlefield, otherwise put it into your hand. So that's good. So basically you're accelerating your mana, or you're basically drawing a card. Well, basically you're just drawing a card every turn, and if it's a land, you get to put it in play. Now that sounds great, right? You're accelerating your mana. The thing is, for Nissa to even flip, you need to have 7 lands in play. So if you've already got 7 lands in play, her +1 is not so outstanding because you already have pretty much all the mana you need. Drawing the non-land card is nice. I'm not going to doubt that. Her -2 is put a legendary green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. So you put the legendary creature down, you can't really use that -2 anymore because it's legendary creature. That really sucks. I don't know what they were thinking on that one. I don't know why it had to be legendary, because you've already had to ramp up to 7 lands before you could even get Nissa to flip. So at that point in the game, being able to put a 4/4 green creature on the battlefield every 2 or 3 turns is not really that broken, so I don't understand that one. Putting basically Nissa's a 2/2 for green and 2 rather. When she enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic forest card, reveal it, put it in your hand. When a land enters the battlefield, if you control 7, flip her. Now, Nissa as just maybe a 1-of to go fetch a land. Yeah, if you want to use her for that. But I don't really see her as being super great. She's at $20. I don't know. I'm not buying into Nissa on this. If I played green, and I like to play green, I just basically use her as a ramp spell. Now, one thing to keep in mind is Zendikar's coming. And last time Zendikar was here, we had crazy rampage spells. I mean, we had a whole green-red Valakut ramp deck. One card I forgot to mention that I passed over in the blue section was Fairy Miscreant, which is for 1 blue, you get a 1/1 flyer. It's a fairy rogue. When Fairy Miscreant enters the battlefield, if you control any other creature named Fairy Miscreant, draw a card. I like this. I would like to get some foils of these. I don't know that it's ever going to have a place where it gets played in Modern, but if fairies ever makes a big return in Modern, and there's been a few fairy decks pop up, I'm gonna go ahead and pick up some Fairy Miscreant foils because I like having a 1-drop 1/1 flyer for 1 blue that's a fairy, and then turn 2 I can spell Stutter Sprite. So I'm going to get foils of those. Now, of all the cards that we looked at and talked about, and I know I'm going really long here on time, so for value, the only things that I'm seeing right now that I'm going to keep an eye on are Chandra has potential to move up in the standard format. Starfield of Nyx, as a fan, I'm going to watch that, and if it becomes a deck, it has potential to move up. Days Undoing, I'm going to be watching that for vintage play to see if that's going to get played in vintage. Fairy Miscreant, I'm going to get the foils, I just mentioned that. I will keep an eye on Honored Hierarch to see if there's any other mana accelerators in a format. Another card that I'm going to keep an eye on that I didn't hit when I was talking about blue was Jace's Sanctum. It's a blue and 3 for an enchantment. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, scry 1. I like this card in a deck that's running Starfield of Nyx. If Starfield of Nyx becomes a deck, it's going to need bodies, and Jace's Sanctum is a great body because it becomes a 4/4 creature when it comes back, and it lowers your instants and sorceries, and it lets you scry. I think the best deck for Starfield of Nyx is going to be a Bant deck. White, green, and blue would be my first choice, but white, and it needs to be white-green, I think, because you do need to have the cards that let you get cards in the graveyard. You need Commune with the Gods, you need Satyr Wayfinder, could be like a Sidisi maybe, but Satyr Wayfinder and Commune with the Gods are the 2 cards that are going to help you fill that graveyard, and you're only going to have Satyr Wayfinder for a month, so I don't know about the longevity of Starfield of Nyx. Anyway, that's another card that I'm going to keep an eye on. So anyway, there's not a lot of cards that I'm really focusing on right now. There's going to be some cards that I skimmed over today that are going to be big players in Standard, but that's fine. I'm not looking at big players in Standard. I'm just looking to see if there's anything that I feel is undervalued right now. Nothing's jumping out at me. As far as an investment in the set for buying booster boxes, right now I don't feel very good about that. I think buying booster boxes is right now not the greatest idea, unless you're just doing it for fun. If you're doing it for fun and you like to open booster boxes and you like the set, then go for it. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But as far as investment, I'm not sold on it yet. I will dig deeper when we get the full spoiler, and I'll put out a video on that. I would like to stress that this is just my early evaluation and thoughts on the set, that I haven't made any strong decision to buy any particular card. The only thing that I'm even leaning towards buying would be Chandra right now, at which point I'll put out a video telling you guys what I'm looking at buying or what I'm buying. The only thing that I'm looking at for Modern or Legacy or Vintage is Days Undoing, and that card, again, I'll wait to see if it shows up in Vintage before I make any decisions on that. So, I would really love to hear you guys' opinions on these cards, so shoot me some feedback comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know interactions of cards that obviously I haven't looked at, and we'll go from there. But for now, thanks for watching. I know it's been long. You don't need to leave me a comment about it. And peace out, guys.